Hi, I'm Dennis Ward. Welcome to APTN National News. The 4 people murdered last week on the Carry the Kettle Nakoda Nation in Saskatchewan have been identified. Saskatchewan RCMP are also saying that no arrests have been made in relation to the deaths. Saskatchewan RCMP, in collaboration with the families of the deceased victims, are releasing the names to help further the investigation. They have been identified as 34-year-old Tracy Hodamani of the Carry the Kettle Nakoda Nation, 44-year-old Sheldon Cuisance of Zagami, Anishinaabeg, 47-year-old Shauna Fay of Indian Head, and 51-year-old Terry Jack of Carry the Kettle Nakoda Nation. RCMP say neighborhood canvasses have occurred, but at this time, no arrests have been made in relation to the quadruple homicide. Senior Investigative Officer of Saskatchewan Major Crimes, Inspector Ashley St. Germain, says RCMP are actively investigating the tragedy to piece together the details of what happened. St. Germain says releasing more specific details could impact the overall investigation. In a press release, she says rumors can spread quickly. Please remember the loss the victims' loved ones have experienced. Misinformation can impact an investigation by rerouting investigators in false directions. Investigations must follow evidence, and our investigators are trained to do just that. RCMP says the investigation also continues into a firearm incident that took place on the same day as the 4 homicides on Zagami, Anishinaabeg. Keegan Panapikisik was taken into custody in Regina on February 5th and is facing charges related to the firearm incident. Still in Saskatchewan, RCMP have arrested 2 men following a shooting that happened in a home in a First Nation over the weekend. On Saturday, February 8th at around 6:15 p.m., Meadow Lake RCMP were called to a home in Waterhen Lake First Nation after a man was injured. He was later taken to hospital for his injuries. RCMP say the suspect involved in the shooting fled the scene in a dark-colored truck and was later found and arrested along with the driver of the truck. The community saw an increased police presence following the shooting, and RCMP continue their investigation this week. Waterhen Lake First Nation is located about 2.5 hours north of North Battleford, near Meadow Lake. Alberta RCMP Major Crimes are investigating following a sudden death in the Alexis Nakoda Sioux Nation, located just west of Edmonton. On Saturday, February 8th, Mayor Thorpe RCMP responded to reports of a stabbing at a home in the First Nation. When they arrived, they found 28-year-old Elziar Cardinal deceased. RCMP later arrested 33-year-old Dalton Earl Cardinal, who has been charged with second-degree murder. The charges have yet to be tested in court. Dalton Cardinal was remanded into custody and is scheduled to make his first court appearance in Mayerthorpe on Thursday, February 13th. Manitoba RCMP is asking for the public's help in identifying a man they believe tried to abduct a child almost 2 weeks ago into Tasquiac Cree Nation, 10 hours north of Winnipeg. Thompson RCMP released this composite sketch of a man who is accused of attempting to abduct a child. He has what appears to be a gray or white colored left eye, a mark on his right cheek, along with a short beard. He was also wearing a light gray jacket and a ball cap. Witnesses said he was driving a dirty white van that was spotted numerous times driving by the TCN gas bar. On Wednesday, January 29th at around 10 a.m., Thompson RCMP received a call about an attempted child abduction into Tasquiac Cree Nation. RCMP saying an 8-year-old child was on her way to school when an unknown man in a white van near the school offered her a ride. The child got away and got to school safely. RCMP from Thompson say the suspect may have left the community before they got there. They're asking anyone with cameras in the area to contact them if they have video of the van. The claims period for the First Nations Child and Family Services and Jordan's Principal Settlement will open to eligible children and caregivers next month. Assembly of First Nations National Chief Cindy Woodhouse-Neepanak was in Winnipeg to make the announcement. Reporter Sierra Bettens has more.
On March 10th, The $23.3 billion First Nations Child and Family Services and Jordan's Principal Settlement will open to claimants in the first 2 of 9 classes.
While no amount of money can make up for the harms done or for your childhood, this $23 billion compensation settlement, the largest in Canada's history, is an important acknowledgement of the harm First Nations experienced in this racist system that has broken so many lives and so many families.
Eligible claimants are First Nations individuals who were removed from their homes as children, either on reserve or in the Yukon, and placed into care funded by Indigenous Services Canada between April 1st, 1991 and March 31st, 2022. Their caregivers are also eligible. To apply, claimants must have a valid government-issued ID, a mailing address, and a bank account. The consulting firm Deloitte has implemented a claimant support framework to help simplify the process.
We will have regional liaisons available in each region across the country, and these people will be available to be the point of contact for all the First Nations and their organizations in each region. As well, we have a contact center that will be open every day. Anyone can reach out through various means through that contact center.
Adult-age claimants have 3 years to submit their claim. Minors may submit a claim up to 2 years before they reach the age of majority, but will not receive compensation until they are of age.
You do not need to hire a lawyer. You do not need to pay anyone to help you submit a claim. No one from the administrator Deloitte will reach out to you or request your personal information, financial details, or ask you to tell your story of being in the system. If someone does this, this is fraud. Please report it to the administrator.
Those seeking more information may visit fnchildclaims.ca or call the administrator at 1-833-852-0755. Sierra Buttons, APTN National News, Winnipeg.
Conservative leader Pierre Poilievre says if elected, his government will build a military base in Iqaluit. It would protect Canada's sovereignty and the Northwest Passage from Russian and Chinese interference. F-35 fighter jets and a maritime patrol craft would be stationed at the base to protect the region from possible incoming threats. Poilievre says this will allow for more goods and services to flow in the region. He says the base will require the presence of 4,000 rangers, and he hopes the Inuit will fill this role, citing knowledge passed down to be essential. Poilievre says he would build the base within 2 years of taking office.
The Canada First plan of the Conservative government will build Canada's first permanent Arctic military base since the Cold War. It will be CFB Iqaluit, right here in this community. We will build it in consultation with military experts, local government leaders, and the Indigenous population. Iqaluit already has a functional a forward operating location and a functional airport and seaport that can accommodate the Canadian forces.
Now to a story from our colleagues in Australia, where the Northern Territory's soaring prison population has broken a grim new record. More than 2,500 people are now crammed into prisons and police watch houses in Australia. Police and justice advocates say chronic overcrowding and extended lockdowns are taking a toll on officers and inmates alike. NITV's Emma Calloway has more.
Prisoner numbers in the Northern Territory have surged since the CLP swept to power in August on a wave of tough-on-crime policies.
We've had an increase of some 400 prisoners since we have been elected.
The latest tally has broken all previous records, with the total number of inmates behind bars now at 2,658. Most of them First Nations.
400 prisoners is a 20% growth to the prison population for the Northern Territory in the space of 4 or 5 months. That would stretch any corrections service around the country.
With police watch houses being used as prisons, the Police Association holds serious concerns for the safety of officers and inmates.
Limited room for showering, limited room for exercise in the facility. So potentially they're locked up in a cell for sometimes the 24 hours out of the 24-hour period.
Reports police have also changed their approach to tackling crime because of the crisis.
They've been instructed that non-urgent arrests are to be avoided if possible to alleviate the pressures we're currently seeing in our watch houses. That's an instruction by NT Police.
The Berrima prison was previously the Dondale detention facility. With youth detainees transferred to a new facility, it once again houses adult prisoners with 58 new beds, despite being ruled unfit for purpose years ago. The Northern Australian Aboriginal Justice Agency says the situation will have a devastating impact on Aboriginal communities and families for generations to come, and it is not reducing crime. Jail is not the only solution. NAJA has also called for a package of policy and funding changes to address the underlying causes of crime, for better supports for the justice system and greater safeguards for Aboriginal people in custody. Emma Kellaway, NITV News.
The Invictus Games are officially underway. We'll bring you some of the highlights from the opening ceremonies after the break. Welcome back. The opening ceremonies for the 2025 Invictus Games kicked off this past weekend in Vancouver, and more than 500 competitors from 23 different nations are participating in various sports. APTN's Tina House has more.
The Invictus Games is an opportunity for wounded war veterans to participate in sports on their journey of healing. With the lighting of the cauldron, the Games officially started. The opening ceremonies kicked off with a star-studded lineup of performers, including musician Chris Martin from Coldplay, who performed with his choir the theme song that he wrote for the Games.
Out of the night that covers me, black as the pit from pole to pole, I thank whatever God's made for my unconquerable soul.
And other performers, such as Canadian singer Nelly Furtado, was joined by OG Cree hip-hop rapper Matt Mack, along with the dance troupe Ill Abilities. Next up was folk pop artist Noah Kahan, and global superstar Katy Perry closed the show. The Duke of Sussex, Prince Harry, addressed a sold-out crowd of 40,000 people at BC Place in downtown Vancouver.
I would like to begin by honouring the First Nations who are hosting this year's Games. Lilwat, Musqueam, Squamish, and Tsleil-Waututh. Heitsap, Kuquilam. From the bid for the Games through to this week's competition, we have walked together side by side on this journey. And we are so grateful to you for having these Games on your land.
Paulette Doctor is Maori from New Zealand. She's retired from the Navy, and she's also a two-time competitor in the Invictus Games.
I'll always be thankful for having the opportunity to come and be amongst the community, be amongst the family. There are no explanations needed. We're all here fighting that same journey to find ourselves again and to get stronger and get past those barriers that would otherwise keep us down.
Ryan Taniguchi is a war veteran from Maui, Hawaii, and served 2 tours in Afghanistan and Iraq, and says the energy at this year's opening of the Games was electric.
The power of all the speakers, the power of the athletes when they walked in, and the butterflies as we walked up to get to presenting of the flag. I got to be out there when the athletes were arriving to the arena, and I thought that was so surreal because the excitement and the honored feeling that we both shared.
As we embark on this year's competition, here is my challenge to all of you. Show the world how you behave under completely impossible circumstances. Show the world your fearlessness. Show the world the grandeur in your attempt at victory. Show the world why you are Invictus. Thank you.
Tina House, APTN National News, Vancouver.
The Yukon Quest is said to be one of the world's toughest dog sled races. The extreme outdoor race includes freezing temperatures, steep inclines, and of course sled dogs, which need to be cared for throughout it all. Sarah Connors tells us the heartwarming story behind one rookie musher and his dog team.
They're just puppies, and they're the ones that I ran in the Quest, and their first time, that's their first experience with the Quest. And
mushing is in Johnny Cooey's blood.
I was born into it.
The Tetlit-Quitchin musher from Fort McPherson, Northwest Territories, comes from a family of mushers. Cooey is a musher here at Keystone Kennels, just outside of Whitehorse.
All right, another musher coming in, Viv 120, Johnny Cooey from, sponsored by Braeburn Lodge.
On February 2nd, he fulfilled a lifelong dream by mushing in the Yukon Quest 175.
Just pulling that hook, taking off from the starting line was such a big relief because we work so hard to get to that point.
The Yukon Quest is not for the faint of heart. Mushers in the 175 raced 175 miles, or 280 kilometers, from the community of Teslin to Ross River in extreme cold.
I can't say it's for everybody because my first night camping out on the Quest Trail, it was about -40 and I slept outside with the dogs, and luckily I didn't freeze.
While 3 dogs had to be dropped from the team for their own health and safety, Cooey finished 5th place out of 7. It's a placement he's proud of considering he only had 2 months to train and all but one of his sled dogs were rookies.
I was really proud of the pups, and they did a really good job, and I think I've done a really good job with them too, so I was really happy with that. Look at that view!
Cooey says the experience also helped him feel more connected to his First Nations culture. Dog sledding was invented by Northern Indigenous people as an efficient winter travel method to haul items across snow-covered terrain. Cooey says it's an honor to retrace his ancestors' footsteps.
And you're living through these trails that your ancestors used to once go through with dogs, and it's just a beautiful feeling. It's I can't explain it because it's so fulfilling. And this little lady here, Phoebe, she's a first-time leader, and she just started training 2 months with me.
With his first race behind him, there's now the question of whether or not Cooey will participate in the bigger Yukon Quest, the 450, in the future. If that happens, he and the team will have more training and more experience when competing in one of the world's toughest races. Sarah Connors, APTN National News, Mendenhall.
Now to one of this week's web poll questions. We're asking if you would support a safe consumption site in your neighborhood. Yes, no, or unsure. You can go to our website, aptnnews.ca, to cast your vote. We've got another mother tongue teaching coming up after the break. Stick around. Welcome back. Here's a look at your current conditions. 19 below in Fredericton, -10 in Halifax. Cloudy and -25 in Kuujjuaq, 19 below in Nain. -4 with snow at this hour in Montreal, 18 below in Val-d'Or. -17 in Sault Ste. Marie, -14 in North Bay. 23 below in Thunder Bay, cloudy and -24 in Sioux Lookout. -27 in God's Lake, Norway House, and the Paw. 25 below in Winnipeg, sun's out, and -24 in Dauphin. -28 and cloudy in Regina, snow, and -26 in Saskatoon. -28 in La Ronge and Buffalo Narrows. Snow across much of northern Alberta, -18 in High Level, 22 below in Fort McMurray. Flurries and 15 below in Edmonton, -13 in Lethbridge. +1 and sunny skies in Vancouver and Victoria. -12 in Prince George, sun's out, and 10 below in Smithers. -31 with snow in Old Crow, -17 in Whitehorse. 28 below in Yellowknife, -14 with flurries in Norman Wells. -21 in Sax Harbor, 12 below with snow in Fort McPherson. minus 28 in Chesterfield and Whale Cove, minus 16 in Resolute, 19 below with snow in Igloolik. Mother Tongue Teachings is a special segment here on our noon show for February's I Love to Read month. Each weekday, T.R. Wheatley will introduce you to a knowledge carrier and a phrase of the day, taking you to the roots of Indigenous languages from our provinces and territories. Today, Dennis Shorty joins us from the Yukon to share the Kaska Dene language.
My Kastana name is Dennis Shorty, and I'm from Ross River. My Dina name is Gotsaza, and I also have another name, Atliga to Atinikhadli, and I'm from Tuatlitlini. The language is Athabaskan, part of Athabaskan language. The dialect I speak is probably Kaska, that's what they say, but Kaska Dina language. When we were traveling on the land, long time ago, people used to travel with toboggans, and when people all go out on the land to do harvesting, that's what they say. All elders, so alla get that, so alla get that, so alla get that, so alla get that. That means to walk slowly together. So I'm one of the fluent speakers. People, they phone me and ask me for this and that, and it takes me a little while to think though, because English is backwards. So I have to click into Dena mode. Residential schools. This Sistawali, Kat Awali, then I could stand. Siga Diasti. Skatligak, Gazatati, Gazatasi, the Nick color. Even though they took me residential school, even though they tried to beat the language all of me, I still speak my language. I still know who I am. So all I get that. So all I get that.
Thanks for that, Dennis. So Alla Kateth, walk slowly together. If you want to see more language teachings, go to our website, aptnnews.ca/Mother Tongue Teachings. Well, she stood on the front lines pushing to search a Winnipeg landfill for 2 women from her community of Long Plain First Nation. Now Kyra Wilson has become Grand Chief of the Assembly of Manitoba Chiefs. Just 2 weeks into her role, she sits down with T.R. Wheatley on Face to Face tonight. Among the topics they're tackling include U.S. tariffs and an issue that First Nations people can work together on.
Have to deal with the affordability for food in all of our communities. We are, obviously the first peoples of this land, but we struggle the most with poverty and being able to afford, basic necessities, and the affordability for our northern communities is something that I think about when we talk about the tariffs and what does that mean for all First Nations, but the inflation that we are going to see with these tariffs, that is something that I am working on and I will be working on with our leadership to find solutions.
It's all the time we have for your first look at the day's news. I will see you back here at 6 p.m. Eastern Time. Marcy McGuitch, have a great afternoon.